cabinet press briefings because there are a lot of things happening in cabinet that we have to report on, and we will still be doing our Hurricane Melissa updates because that does take up a lot of the time in cabinet, and so you'll still have ODPEM reporting to you, but we've gone back to doing our post-cabinet briefings. And today we have a lot of individuals here for you to hear from. It's really Good News Wednesday. That's really what we should call this, this briefing. We have the Honorable Fayval Williams, Minister of Finance and the Public Service, with us this morning. You know, when Minister Williams is here, it's a good day. And there's some good things that we're going to hear, not just what was yesterday in Parliament, and she did such a fantastic job yesterday. We also have on way the Honorable Floyd Green, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. We have Senator the Honorable Aubin Hill, our Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce. And we'll also have the Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports. And we have Senator Marlon Morgan here, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. Before I give everybody else, there are not many countries in the world that are going to have 4 ministers, well 5, and 1 parliamentary secretary coming before the country to report on what they are doing. We believe in transparency. That's why every week every blogger can find things to put on their blogs, because we come here every single week and we present the leadership of this country to answer questions, to talk about what they're doing and to answer questions. So I hear about, you know, there's not enough transparency, don't know what's going on. That is crazy, because every single week we have shown that this is an administration that believes in accountability, in putting ourselves here, opening ourselves up to every question that will come. That's about accountability, and we will always stand for that. And our Prime Minister has always said to us, we have to give the people of Jamaica the information that is needed, and they need to know what we are doing, and that's what we do when we have these briefings. With us today, we also have several permanent secretaries. We have Terry Ann Thomas Gale, the Chief Education Officer for Jamaica. We have Commander Alvin Gale, the Director General of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. We have Miss Nikisha Walsh, Executive Director of the Students' Loan Bureau, so you know something good is coming. We also have Mr. Harold Davis, CEO of JBDC, and I know Minister Hill usually come with a lot of your heads, so I'm assuming others will be here too. We have Mr. Michael Price, Senior Strategist in the Ministry of Agriculture, Garnet Edmondson, CEO of RADA, Dr. Gavin Bellamy, CEO of National Fisheries Authority. Again, that means there's a lot coming about agriculture too this morning. All the members of staff who are here from the various government entities. We also want to acknowledge Shauna K. Williams-Pinnock, Acting Dean of College, Mico University College, all the students who are here from the Mico University College, and other youth representatives. I know some of our members of the Youth Advisory Council are also here this morning. Members of the media, Jamaicans watching at home and abroad, good morning again to you all. And given the lineup we have and the lots of good news that we have, we're going to go straight into it. And we're going to start with our update from ODPEM, where Commander Alvin Gale will be telling you where we are in the process and giving you some key updates, and then we go into some cabinet decisions that have been taken. Welcome, Commander.
Morning, Minister. Thank you. Morning, Ministers, PSAs, colleagues. Jamaica. The National Emergency Operations Center continues to be activated, operating under 5 lines of effort: logistics and emergency relief, damage and needs assessment, restoration of critical infrastructure, humanitarian assistance and social protection, and coordination and support. The coordinated machinery continues to direct national responses and early recovery operations. Today I'll seek to provide a summary of the progress made across all key sectors. As at 0800 this morning, or rather at 8 a.m. this morning, At 8 a.m. this morning, the confirmed death toll from Hurricane Melissa remains at 45, while 18 persons are also missing. We continue to hold the families and communities at this time and their loved ones in our thoughts. Water, sanitation, and hygiene. We continue to make advancement in restoring water supply across the western region of Jamaica and affected communities island-wide. Today, some 82% of NWC customers have been restored. 61% of the customers in the western parishes have been restored. That means some 60,000 NWC customers in the western parishes do remain without a piped water supply. Significant work continues to ensure that all Jamaicans will have access to safe water, as this is critical to hygiene and sanitation matters. The National Water Commission and partners have already delivered approximately 10 million gallons of water to affected communities. The National Water Commission has also deployed 12 additional water trucks. These resources have been strategically positioned across the island to ensure equitable distribution of safe water. This will ensure the delivery of over 145,000 gallons per day to affected communities. In addition to these deployments, some 23 fill stations remain active across the parishes of St. James, Westmoreland, and Hanover, enabling the continuous resupply to these trucks. As it pertains to food assistance and nutrition, to date, the national system has provided just over 259,000 care packages to those in need. Our partners in food security, amongst them the World Food Programme, World Central Kitchens, Global Empowerment Mission, have been central to sustaining the affected populations. To date, over 3.2 million hot meals have been served across Jamaica, primarily in the western parishes, and over some additional 50,000 food care packages have been distributed to communities in need. Nutritional support for vulnerable groups remain a priority. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, with the support of PAHO, UNICEF, and the World Health Organization, continues to provide specialized nutritional services across the island, including iron tablets, folate, and high nutritional supplements. Most recently, they have also completed some nutritional educational training programs for our frontline personnel. Health and medical services. The restoration of the health sector continues to advance at a steady pace. More than 50% of all healthcare centers across all parishes are operational. 24 hospitals are back in service and some 325 health centers. Island-wide, 97% of our hospitals are back with JPS power. The Ministry of Health is also intensifying its public education messaging, primarily concerning infectious diseases, given the recent flooding and debris in particular areas. As it concerns shelter and humanitarian protection, across Jamaica, some 100 shelters remain active today, housing some 1,107 persons who continue to receive meals, hygiene supplies, psychological support, and medical assistance. Partners in this sector include the Social Development Cooperation, UNICEF, UNESCO, and the International Organization for Migration. They continue to strengthen our shelter management processes through assessments, training, and the activation of reporting systems across parishes. The Jamaica Constabulary Force continues to support us through its Community Safety and Security Branch as they continue welfare checks on these shelters, various communities across the island. During their welfare checks, the JSF has also distributed some 10,500 care packages, ensuring that communities most affected and those vulnerable households are taken care of. I will indicate as well that Jamaica's security environment remains stable throughout this period. Across the island, some 1.6 million buildings have been assessed by GeoAI. Of that number, we have now assessed 215,000 to have some level of damage. It is estimated that 156,000 of these buildings will have varying degrees of roof damage. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security, with strong sectoral support, has been able to date, complete some 31,000 damage assessments as we work to ensure all buildings are assessed and develop plans for immediate sheltering and the rebuilding. As it concerns logistics and supply chain operations, the logistic operation has been scaled significantly since the onset of the emergency. To date, just over 100 shipments representing more than 2,000 metric tons of relief supplies have entered Jamaica. These include food, hygiene products, medical supplies, shelter material, and other equipment. The national logistics system operated by the ODPEM continues to be strengthened with support from the JDF, the MLSS, the World Food Program, and CDEMA. There's also now just been rolled out our disaster management information system, which houses the inventory portal for the ODPEM. System development continues at pace. In terms of energy restoration, the Jamaica Public Service is now at some 80% of restoration, and the national work continues on the national grid. This is one of the fastest restoration rates we've seen given all disasters across multiple countries. Telecommunications, I will report that over 90% of post-Melissa traffic is back online through Digicel and Flow. They continue with their restorations. In terms of the education sector, I'll indicate now that some 73 schools continue to house shelteries. Processes are underway to have persons go back to their own safe shelter. The Ministry of Local Government and Community Development is driving that process, strongly supported by the ODPEM. Private sector engagement, significant private sector engagement has been brought in the Melissa recovery effort. Whilst we note the reopening of our ports to include cruise ship piers, restoration of ATMs and remittance outlets across the island remains a vital component in this restoration. I will indicate that just about 39% of Jamaicans receive remittances monthly. Thus far, in the parishes of St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, St. James, these have seen above 50% restoration rates for ATMs and remittance companies. The parishes of Hanover is at 20% and Trelawny is at 47%. So we continue to support that multi-sectorial rollout pertinent to bringing back remittances and banking stations online. In closing, as we move deeper into the early recovery phase, our national response remains grounded in coordination, transparency, and partnership across government, civil society, international actors, and the Jamaican people. While significant progress has been made, ODPEM acknowledges that recovery is ongoing, and we remain committed to supporting every community, strengthening resilience, and restoring normalcy across the island of Jamaica quickly and as safely as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for that very comprehensive update, and I didn't have to stand up. So that means you were very well in the time that you've been given, and I thank you for that. I just wanted to add a few things just based on cabinet decisions that relate to the presentation that was just done. NARA, everyone's talking about NARA, which is a good thing. It's a very, very important innovation, and that's our National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority. Cabinet is still working through details of the NARA. Our government has always been one that is quite deliberate in everything that's done. We only have one shot at building back our country. One shot. And we have to do it properly. And so we're taking the time to ensure that the legal form that NARA takes is the right one for the purposes that we have. We're taking the time to ensure that the procurement framework is the right one that can spur action. Jamaicans can't wait 10 years for the rebuilding. We need to move quickly. But while we're trying to move quickly, we also have to do so with accountability embedded in it. And so we're taking the time to make sure that we have an entity that can move speedily and without all the red tape to rebuild Jamaica in a much more resilient manner, but at the same time still be accountable to the people of Jamaica. And so we're expecting to come back to you in a couple more weeks in terms of more details around NARA, but Cabinet is continuing to deliberate on that. Also, the Prime Minister has noted that within 2 weeks, could be as early as next week, you will have a framework within which to see everything that has come in, all donations that have come, and where they have gone. And I'm very interested in that because I've seen some preliminary data that shows that this notion of partisanship is actually very, very incorrect. It may be partisanship in the other direction. And so when that data comes, you will see exactly which communities, which constituencies got the majority of the aid. It will show you where everything went. And I'm looking forward to that because a lot of people want to know. And I want to know, and I've seen some of it. And so it's good for everyone to know where all of this went, and so we can stop the conversations around partisanship and we can speak about equity and how it has actually happened. So just putting that there, that we're looking forward to that, and we will come here and we will discuss it here. Another thing in relation to cabinet and a decision that's been led by our Prime Minister has to do with the use of the funds in Support Jamaica. I know there was a question last week in relation to how will these funds be used. There are so many persons in the diaspora, even locals in Jamaica, that contributed to the fund. And the decision of cabinet is that the funds in Support Jamaica will be used to purchase building material to support the rebuilding effort. Now that's important because you heard here also that we are going to be doing a lot of the assessments, and Ministry of Labor has already started doing assessments in the field. So they're going out, they're looking at which houses have been damaged, doing the geolocation, they're tagging them, and so we'll be able to know which houses have been damaged. And so the money will be used to buy material that can then be traced to the individuals who have gotten it. So it will go to a house. We know that that house was damaged. We know that family is not able to repurchase the material needed to fix it. So that's how the funds will be used. In addition to that, Guyana, and we thank President Ali that came with the CARICOM team that visited Jamaica. They have offered their corps of engineers to work with us, to work with the JDF, and so the JDF and the Guyanese team will be going out and fixing houses. They'll actually be rebuilding houses. But in order to rebuild the houses, they need material. And so we're using the Support Jamaica funds to buy the material to fix those houses. Now, only houses that have been assessed as having been damaged by the Ministry of Labor will be rebuilt. So remember, I spoke about accountability. Every step of the way, it's about accountability. And so last week, ODPEM couldn't give you an answer in terms of where the money will go because we're working through the right framework, because every Jamaican wants to know that that money is used appropriately. And so Cabinet decided on Monday at its Cabinet meeting that this would be how the funds would be used, and JDF and Guyana will be rebuilding houses, and we're very happy about that. Guyana has committed to rebuilding 200. The JDF can do an additional amount. The majority of those houses will be done in East Westmoreland. Yes, East Westmoreland. And the Member of Parliament has already been told this, and he is working to identify individuals. But as always, those individuals that are identified have to have been assessed as having seen damage. And so the Ministry of Labor team is working hard at that. And so those are some of the decisions coming out of Cabinet in relation to the Hurricane Melissa recovery efforts that are ongoing. Okay, now I go to something very exciting. I think that last one was exciting, the fact that the JDF and the Guyanese Corps of Engineers will be rebuilding houses for people who desperately need it built. But we also have some things that are very important, and today we're going to be hearing from Minister Williams, who has some exciting announcements, not just the ones from yesterday, but that too, but some really, really good announcement for young people. And I'm glad to have the students from the Michael University College here with us so that they can hear and go and tell the world what Minister Williams has to say. Minister Williams?
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge our colleague ministers, Dana Dixon, Minister Hill, Minister Green, PSs, senators, Commander Gale from ODPEM, my own Nikisha Walsh, Executive Director of the Student Loan Bureau, and her team, media, students, ladies and gentlemen. I am overjoyed to be here this morning with the Student Loan Bureau. Nikisha Walsh and her team are here to join me in launching the Debt Reset. This was an initiative that we talked about and announced before election. It's one of our election commitments. And I am proud to say that despite Melissa, despite everything that has happened, we're here today to announce this debt reset and the new face of the Student Loan Bureau. And so I want to say this morning, the Student Loan Bureau is not your mother or your father's Student Loan Bureau. Yes, it's a new SLB, new offices, comfortable location, new information technology. Those days in which you could not get your loan balance and you had to think about getting in a taxi to go to student loan and try to get that, those days are over. Yes. And Nikisha is going to take 5 minutes to walk you through that. But I want to say, over the years, the government of Jamaica, through the Student Loan Bureau, has introduced a range of policies designed to move barriers to tertiary education and make loan repayment more manageable for our students. These initiatives include reductions in interest rates, advanced benefits for beneficiaries, and the removal of the guarantor requirement for loan approval. Additionally, the extension of loan tenures has helped to lower monthly payments, giving our customers more disposable income. The targeted loan tenure now ranges between 15 and 20 years. It used to be way shorter in the old days. And you have the PAYS, you have the postgraduate product that's set at 10 years. The SLB's recent relocation and rebranding marks an important step in its transformation into a more modern, customer-centric institution. It reflects who the organization is today: innovative, resilient, and dedicated to meeting the evolving needs of the stakeholders. To date, SLB has assisted over 350,000 students, valued at approximately $65 billion. I am standing here today in the position that I have, and were it not for student loan, I would not be able to access tertiary education. And I want to say to our students out there, take a look at student loan. I have been into several of my communities in my constituency of St. Andrew Eastern, and students have come up to me seeking help for tertiary. And when I engage them and ask them about student loan, there is such a resistance and lack of knowledge. And I know the student loan is going to go out there and ensure that all our young people know about the benefits of student loan. In fact, they're going to ensure that they engage parents as well, because many times I've found it's the parents who are saying, no, my child is not going to take student loan. My daughter, my son is not going to take student loan. But I'm here to tell you that this is a way for you to finance tertiary education, and we're going to make the repayment of it as easy as possible. I know that many persons have called for us to look at repayment relative to the salaries that students are earning. That is the next door that we are going to open for our students. And so this morning, I want to leave a little bit of time for for Executive Director to just walk through some of the main features of the system and to explain the debt reset. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. All protocols already observed. So as our minister mentioned, today we will be presenting the debt reset program along with 2 other great initiatives. So the Student Loan Bureau, through a mandate, as minister would have mentioned, played a critical or pivotal role in advancing national human capital development. To date, our interest is as low as 3%, moving from as high as 16%. At this stage of our transformation, the next critical step is advancing our digital capabilities to improve access, enhance communication channels, and strengthen partnership across the education ecosystem. So first, I would like to introduce the new STEEP customer portal. On the portal, we were able to register online, meaning go online, access your account. You will be able to pay your loan. You will also be able to view your loan your details and also print statements. This is our customer portal. The student will be able to go on the website and access this landing page. Now, why we need an onboarding platform is because we want to access the information from the students. So they will be able to put in their email address and their password. It's not moving. So when they access the portal, this is their login credentials. As I said before, their email address and their password that will help them to access, this platform. So what you're looking at is our new customer portal. They'll be able to apply for a loan, they'll be able to print their statement, and they'll be able to view their loan details. Now, this is what a typical statement will look like. As you can see, it will show your loan information, your repayment start date, the tenor of your loan, the interest arrears, if any, and the closing balance to close that loan. Now, to date, the SLB has 360 loans in our active portfolio. 8,890 are current, 11,634 are delinquent, and we have 4,836 loans in moratorium. So the debt reset program is an opportunity for our students to reduce their loan balances, eliminate accumulated charges, and establish a more sustainable path towards repayment. This initiative supports customers both in good standing and those in arrears. So effective October 31st, this is where SLB will pull on the loan portfolio to determine how many of our students are active, and I would have mentioned that figure before, and how many students are in arrears. This program runs between December 1, 2025 and April 30th, 2026. What it will do, it will allow the students to clear their arrears by SLB offering a 50% waiver, on your interest arrears, 100% waiver on your charges, and 100% waiver on your insurance fees. And the student will be able to close this within 5 months. So the other benefit, because we understand that there are students that are in good standing. There are students today that continue to make their payments despite financial challenges. So what this debt reset program will do as well, we will be giving $100,000 to be applied on all of those students' loan accounts. So currently, as I said before, we have 8,890 students, and come next week, 100,000 will be applied to their account. This is about encourage them for continue to be, good customers. Once you are in the debt reset program and after a year, if you continue to become current, the SLB also offers a 2% interest reduction in your interest rate. So this will allow students now to reduce their repayment costs and also get an opportunity to have more disposable income. So how would this work? You will go on our website, you will apply for the debt reset program. It, as on the screen will show you, you will see, for example, the students have $185,000, and based on the debt reset program, we are waiving $52,000. So the student have an opportunity to pay this amount over 5 months. They would indicate which month or which period they want to do so, and they will get a statement indicating what their monthly payment should be. Now, we also, apart from the debt reset, Minister, want to support our students and customers that have been impacted by the Hurricane Melissa. So currently, students in tertiary institution and customers across the parishes have been impacted. So SLB will be introducing several measures to show our commitment in protecting vulnerable borrowers, addressing post-disaster socio-economic disruptions, and upholding our mandate to ensure equitable access to tertiary education. So currently, we are already deploying efforts through our CSR activities. We would have been into some institutions, some schools, offering care packages and also giving donations to tertiary for the schools in terms of further rebuilding efforts. But we want to say to our students that we have another program that we want to introduce effective next week. So we are looking at 5 parishes: St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, and Trelawney. Currently, we have 1,948 students that are enrolled in institutions across these parishes. We have also identified 4,458 repayment customers who reside within these parishes. So what we are doing for the students that are in school, we are going to give them a $60,000 grant in aid to support their post-Melissa efforts. And for those who are in repayment, we are giving a 3-month deferment on their account from November 2025 to January 2026. Now, the question is, what about those who are not in the 5 parishes? And, they may be impacted. We already assessed that situation, and what we're doing, we're ascertaining funds from our account to ensure that beneficiaries outside of these parishes, we can support them. But this is to be done on a case-by-case basis. So if you do not fall into the 5 parishes, you can contact the SLB, and we will offer you one of those initiatives. So SLB remains bold. We are forward-looking, and we are committed to innovation, digital excellence, customer empowerment, and sound financial stewardship. Guided by our strategic pillars and aligned with national priorities, we will continue to expand access while securing long-term institutional stability. The SLB is now 54 years old. As we advance, we affirm our mission to empower Jamaicans through affordable and accessible tertiary financing, enabling a stronger future for our citizens and our country. The student loan remains relevant, and we are building bridges, and we are transforming dreams. We are encouraging our customers to take full advantage of the debt reset opportunity. Bringing your loan current and maintaining consistent payments enable us to continue supporting the next generation of students. As a nation, we believe in lifting up each other. When you repay, each one reach one. No one is left behind. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was very, very good. Minister Williams, congratulations to you, and congratulations to the SLB. And just noting, in our manifesto, it did put this in there. We had this in our manifesto, and it is being done. So we gave a commitment, and that commitment has been honored. We honor our commitments. And so, Minister Williams, I'm very happy this morning, and I know a lot of Jamaicans are very, very happy. Think about it. You get your ballot. First, now you can go online and see what your balance is. Back in my day, you couldn't do that. You had to call and call and call, and nobody answers the phone. It's such a different SLB now. You can go online and get your balance, and you see the balance is 250,000. And you're like, when is this going to end? And then you see 100,000 credited to it, and now you only owe 150. That's what's happening. So if you've been current, you get rewarded for being current. And then those who have not been so current and you've had some issues, here you're getting 50% write-off on some of your debt. I mean, this is amazing. And remember also, for a lot of our young people, that your repayment history goes to the credit bureau, and it can have an impact on your financial life. So take this opportunity to get your finances in order. The SLB is here to support you. Minister Williams is here to support you. And there's more to come from SLB. There are more big announcements to be made. And do not fear the SLB. We're not here to be punitive and to be negative in your future. We want to make your future right. And the SLB is going to support you. And so, Minister Williams, what a great way to kick off things. The first manifesto promise that's been ticked. Thank you, Minister Williams. Now let's see. Minister Green, can you top that? Minister Green, every time I see him as House leader, I just smile and I am just so happy. Minister Green is someone who I admire a lot, and he made me come into this world of politics because he's just such a wonderful human being, and seeing humans like him in it makes you feel like you can do it too. And so this morning I'm so happy to have Minister Green here to talk about what's happening in his portfolio, and also I get to congratulate him in public for being the new leader of government business in the House. Good morning, Minister Green.
Good morning, Minister Morris Dixon. Thank you. Thank you so much. Our colleague ministers, Minister Williams, Minister Hill, Commander Gale, our permanent secretaries who are here. We do have a team from the ministry, CTD Palmer, our CEO of RADA, Mr. Edmondson, our CEO of the National Fisheries Authority, Dr. Gavin Bellamy, and also Mr. Price, who is in charge of our Hurricane Melissa recovery efforts. Other specially invited guest members of the media, just to say, before I get into my presentation, just to commend the team at the SLB and Minister Williams, I too would not have been able to do tertiary education were it not for the Student Loan Bureau. I am well, at that time I wasn't a proud recipient. And I genuinely wished that we had some of these initiatives during that time. I'm going to age myself now, but my time was a time of add-on balance. Let me tell you something. Anyway, let's talk about the most important people in our society, our farmers and fishers. We are 4 weeks post the most devastating blow to our agricultural sector. I've already outlined in Parliament the scope and scale of the devastation, a preliminary figure which at that time was about 30 billion Jamaican dollars, or about 150 million United States dollars. But to put it in perspective and to explain that those figures were really preliminary, when the World Bank did their rapid assessment using their various models, they came out at about 300 million United States dollars of damage to our agriculture sector. That's about 60 billion Jamaican dollars. I visited vegetable farmers in Boghole in Clarendon and Mafuta in St. James, yam farmers in Litchfield in Trelawney, pineapple farmers in Pisgah in St. Elizabeth. I've personally seen what has happened in my own constituency with our melon, cantaloupe farmers, and also what has happened to scallion farmers in South Manchester. It is a most catastrophic event. Everywhere that I've been to, the devastation is like nothing we have ever seen. And most of these areas you would understand, like Boghole, we have seen multiple rain-related events and disasters. But again, I've never seen nothing like this. However, in all my visits, in all those interactions, the resilience of the Jamaican farmer has really stood out. Farmers are planting again, reestablishing nurseries, repairing greenhouses, and getting themselves in a position to feed Jamaica again. We must feed Jamaica again. And that is why the response of the government is critical to accelerate the pace of the recovery and to ensure that we hit our targets of feeding Jamaica again. RADA is the leading operational arm for our National Agricultural Recovery Program. And as was shared yesterday in the supplemental estimate, the ministry has received initial funding of $3 billion for the rest of the financial year that we will now roll out as a part of our recovery program. And this will be a joined-up effort between entities like RADA, AgriInvest, National Irrigation Commission, the JAS, also our National Fisheries Authority, and our international partners like the FAO and ECO. The program focuses on production restoration, infrastructure rebuilding, and enhancing climate resilience. We have now completed what I call phase one. Phase one is our rapid assessment and our immediate relief stage. In that stage, rather largely through the use of drones, map the areas that were hardest hit and assess the extent of the damage. You would understand why we had to deploy drones to do this sort of work, because unfortunately, even our extension services suffered tremendous blows. A number of our extension officers who live in the hardest hit parishes are without roofs. Some of them are without.
And so, in welcoming our minister, let me acknowledge our minister, the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., our Minister of Labor and Social Security, who's with us today as part of our panel. We want to also acknowledge the Professor Senator Floyd Morris, who is also with us this morning, who will set the foundation on accessibility, he being the representative of Jamaica to the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Welcome, Senator Morris. We also recognize
prepare for the proverbial rainy day. We do know that some disaster is going to beset us, unfortunately. Either we're going to have an extended drought, or we're going to have a lot of rainfall, or a windstorm, something of the sort. So we have been now, over the last few years, ensuring that we have on-hand supplies that we can immediately deploy. So in this first phase, which was over the last 4 weeks, we've already distributed 6,500 packs of seeds, benefiting over 3,000 farmers, 2,000 bags of fertilizers across 8 parishes. We've had engagements in St. Catherine, St. Anne, Portland, St. Andrew, Trelawney. We're scheduled to have another engagement in St. Elizabeth on Friday, as we move to ensure that our farmers can get back out there. We've also started some restoration work in relation to some of our RADA offices. That will, however, take some time. Unfortunately, we do have offices that were completely destroyed in parishes like St. Anne that we will have to take some time to build back. So having gone through the rapid assessment and provided that initial support, we're now going into phase 2 of our recovery, which is really about intensifying our interventions over the next 6 months. Already, we have procured over 7,000 packs of seed, approximate value of $50 million, and we are distributing as we speak to the parishes. We're already in an additional stage of procurement for another $70 million worth of seeds. We have approximately 5,000 bags of Moroccan fertilizer, which we're distributing again as we speak, and I want to pause to thank the government of Morocco for their kind support. This was pre-Hurricane Melissa. This is not a Melissa gift. But we decided to hold on to it until the end of the hurricane season, just in case we needed to rapidly deploy it. And that's what we're doing now. We will be also purchasing about $50 million worth of fertilizer, specifically formulated for yam farmers. We saw about 70% damage to our yam crop. So we're looking at special lines, 14-28-14, 11-22-22, and sulfate of ammonia. And we also will be putting another $50 million to procure planting material and stakes. So that's about $100 million in our program towards our yam farmers. We're also working with the Agricultural Land Management Unit to do some rapid soil analysis. We've started with our yam belt because, again, if you've been into our most damaged area, the entire topography looks different. And as such, RADA is working with the Agricultural Land Management Unit to do this rapid soil analysis so that we can guide our nutrition program. We're also focusing on our greenhouse farmers. And already we're advancing procuring about 85,000 square feet of greenhouse material that we will deploy to our greenhouse farmers. We're going to be doing a special focus on our nurseries. So we have outlined a program where over the next 3 months, we want to produce at least 2 million seedlings. And to make that possible, we'll be procuring an additional 105,000 square feet of material. We're also going to be procuring frames for 32 greenhouses, and we're procuring now some soluble fertilizers to help our hydroponic farmers that are still functional. You may have heard that we've started a free land preparation program, and that is ongoing as we speak. The idea is to ensure that there are less barriers for people to get back into agriculture. So we've started that for farmers who are interested. They can contact RADA, and we've set some parameters. So if you have less than an acre, we prepare all of that for you free. If you operate up to 5 acres, we'll prepare up to 3 acres free. If you operate up to 10 acres, we prepare up to 5 acres free. And all of that is happening through our RADA tractor services. Additionally, we are engaging private tractor operators. But I say to the farmers, come to RADA to engage the private operator. Don't engage the private operator and then come to RADA to reimburse what you have spent. We have put out an open call that we are looking to partner with those who own tractors. We will take on that tractor under an arrangement. We will provide that tractor service to the farmer, and we will do the payments. There are some areas that we are targeting for immediate recovery, like our sweet potato. And through Bodles, we'll be providing 500,000 sweet potato slips, targeting our agri-parks, trying to drive up our sweet potato production. We've started procurement of water tanks, gravity drip kits, pumps, and drip lines, because again, access to water is critical in the recovery effort. Additionally, I'm pleased to announce that of the $3 billion that have been earmarked by the Ministry of Finance, $800 million has been allocated for emergency work to our farm road network. Our farm roads suffered tremendous damage. And again, we all understand, if our farmers can't reach to the farms, if they can't get out their produce to the market, then we have another challenge. Clearly, this $800 million, based on the amount of work, may be able to do about 40 roads in this initial phase, but I'm very sure that as we continue and get additional support, we will step those numbers up. On the livestock, you may have heard some of the numbers. We lost about 458,000 hens, or about 40% of our laying population, which has significantly affected egg production. We lost about 700,000 broilers. We're starting the process of rebuilding that sector. Already we've procured 100,000 broiler chicks and feed, which will produce about 160,000 kilograms of chicken meat. We're starting distribution this week. Clearly, we're targeting the farmers that have the capacity to continue. But as part of this broiler initiative, we will be focusing on building back infrastructure, because a number of farmers in the hardest hit parishes not only lost their chicken, not only lost their feed, but they lost their chicken coops. And we're going to be building that back as we move forward. We'll also have specialty programs that we're outlining for our pig farmers, our cattle farmers, our small ruminant farmers. We're procuring about 9,000 bags of animal feed to help in that regard. That is just RADA and just some of what we're doing, but there are other entities that are critical to this recovery progress. The National Irrigation Commission, despite widespread damage to our electrical infrastructure, the NIC has moved aggressively to restore service. We have done much better than Hurricane Beryl. And I think that is something that we should celebrate. Power has now been returned to 85% of our water production pumping stations, 37 out of 44. For 4 stations, including in St. Elizabeth and 1 in Trelawney, we have deployed diesel generators so that those stations can operate. It was one of the things we saw in Beryl. It took us a long time to get the hardest hit areas back up and running already. We've used 4 generators, and in some of those areas, the NIC is pumping as we speak. In fact, today, 98% of the NIC customer base has water service restored. I think we should give the NIC a big round of applause for that. The NIC is also operating 12 water filling stations, and one of the things that we have been doing is to provide social water in some of the hardest hit areas. 2.3 million gallons of free water has been provided, supported 1,836 persons across 45 communities in Trelawney, Hanover, and St. Elizabeth. We're also focused on our canal cleaning. You can imagine that we have a lot of debris in our canals from Hurricane Melissa. 20% of the canal cleaning has already been completed, and we're moving on that restoration activity. The Agro-Invest Corporation and our agri-parks is going to be a critical part of our recovery, has started to engage our agri-park farmers. In fact, they had an engagement session with them last week, Tuesday, and they have officially launched a 1,000-acre boost recovery program, which is targeting the rapid return of key crops such as tomatoes, vegetables, melons, sweet potatoes, cassava, hot peppers. Farmers in Clarendon, St. Catherine, and St. Elizabeth are already engaged, with Portland, St. Thomas, and the corporate area being mobilized. Under our 1,000-acre Agri-Park Boost Recovery Program, we would accelerate land preparation, drain cleaning, road repairs, irrigation recovery, seedling supply, fertilizer distribution, and coordinated input support. We're also fast-tracking our matching grant scheme, where we're providing up to $750,000 to farmers for tools, irrigation supply, fencing, and planting material. Additionally, we are using private tractor services in our agri-parks with the target of preparing at least 50 acres per week. We're providing that at discounted rates of up to 62% to get our agri-park farmers back up and running. The JAS has also been on the road with the United Way team. In fact, the United Way launched a fund to support Hurricane Melissa recovery efforts, and I want to formally commend our champion athlete, world champion, Oblique Seville, who was the first donor to the fund, contributing $500,000 to the fund and starting the JS on the road to help with the United Way for the recovery. Our fisheries sector, again, tremendous blow. Over 3,000 boats that have been damaged. Almost all our fishing beaches on the south coast have been tremendously impacted. Almost all our fishers lost most of their fishing wire and their pots. And as such, we have already started our immediate relief. We've already distributed over 900 rolls of wire valued at $19 million to fishers across 20 beaches. We're now emergency procuring 2,000 rolls of wire, and we will start that distribution next week. We've purchased 10 2,500-gallon tanks to be positioned at some of our fishing beaches to help our fishers and also those who trade in fish to treat with post-harvest and personal hygiene. We think that's very, very important. We're also going to be embarking on a program to distribute ice to some of our fishing beaches so that our fishers can get up and running. You know, across these beaches, a number of our fuel stations still do not have electricity, and that's why we have dispatched generators so that they can operate, and generators have been dispatched to Alligator Pond and Great Bay, and those stations are now operating. The White House fuel station, we've done some cleaning work, and our electrical assessment is on the way to see how we can get it up and running. You may have heard that as fishers, if you lost your identification card and your license in Hurricane Melissa, reach out to us. We're going to replace those free of cost. We've also, for the hardest hit parishes, we've also put in a 6-month moratorium on license and ID fees. So our fishers in those areas don't have to worry about that. They can come in and do their renewals free of cost. We're distributing net and wire across St. Mary, St. Catherine, Kingston, and St. Andrew. Again, part of our drive is in the areas that were not as hit as hard, that they can get out quicker. So we've been reaching to them and providing them with some support. The Old Harbor Bay fuel station is also back in operation, and we're going to be working with our mining division and our mining partners, and where we have fishing beaches that are in need of cleanup, we're going to dispatch teams to do that cleanup. Already, we have earmarked a team to go into Parity. Unfortunately, when you go into Parity, all the boats are in the morass. Boats are stacked on top of each other. We're going to move, hopefully this weekend, to try and treat with that. Our Veterinary Services Division has been doing tremendous work. In fact, we are now offering free veterinary clinics across various parishes. We've already done in St. Elizabeth, St. James, and Westmoreland. We're going to Clarkstown in Trelawney next week. That allows our farmers and pet owners to be able to carry out their animals, receive treatment, medication, wound care, vaccines, and nutritional support. In fact, the Veterinary Services Unit went with the JDF on a sort of air reconnaissance to look to see where we had maroon animals, to see where we're having particular challenges because of flooding. In fact, the ministry facilitated the export of 58 dogs that were rescued through some of these missions, from Negril all the way, some of them to the US, some of them to Canada. We have strengthened our capacity to diagnose leptospirosis. Some people don't know that we play a part in that because, again, it's a One Health approach. What we're actively pursuing now is the donation of a veterinary field hospital to see if we can establish some direct veterinary support in the western end of the island, where 3 of our 4 veterinary stations were severely damaged. So that's one of the things that we've been reaching out to our international partners to see how we can get that done. I will leave our mining update for another time, just to treat with 2 more areas and 2 more issues. But I have to thank all the private sector partners and the NGO partners who have come forward thus far. We've gotten some support from the VM Foundation through the Jamaica 4-H Foundation and the UNDP. We've secured a US $70,000 partnership under the Jamaican Resilient Recovery Initiative. The American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture has pledged US $30,000 as well as US $4 million in an ICT support package. We have a pledge from Newport Forsan, which we should action next week, of $25 million worth of fertilizer. And we also want to thank the government of Trinidad and Tobago, who are providing 1,000 pounds of tilapia feed that will go a far way to help our fish farmers in St. Catherine and St. Anne. 2 more issues. 1, will we have food for Christmas? The answer is yes. So already we've started activating, tapping into external sources to ensure that we have sufficiency of supply. How the ministry does this is through our analysis of our demand patterns through the year. We have a fairly good idea of some of the areas and how much we consume, and then we look at our production patterns, and where there's a shortfall, then we see if we can tap into external sources to fill that shortfall. We will not do more than is necessary. I want my farmers not to worry. There will be space for your products. Once you bring them to market, there will be space for that. But already, we're looking to tap into external support for our vegetable lines and our table eggs. I think we all appreciate that there were challenges with table eggs prior to Hurricane Melissa. Those challenges have been made worse by Hurricane Melissa. And now we're in discussions with the Ministry of Finance about the appropriate relief that is needed to ensure that these items can land here at a reasonable price so that our consumers will have access to fresh fruits and vegetables and will have access to eggs for the Christmas period. We also have been working with our Pray Their Larceny unit. It's a challenging time that you have to manage carefully because, again, a number of our farmers, their animals have suffered displacement, and it is normally a prime time for criminals to try and capitalize on that opportunity by literally reaping what they have nothing to do with. You have seen in the news that our agricultural protection branch is really reaping great dividends. I think almost every week now we've heard of an interception where they have intercepted cars with goats Unfortunately, one of those interceptions, when they did all the checks, one of the persons who was in that motor vehicle was a police officer, but it just shows that our agricultural protection branch is working, and they will continue to see how they can provide that level of protection during the Christmas years, because this is the time that we normally see an uptick in these predial larceny crimes. We know that there are some challenges in relation to our National Animal Identification and Traceability System. That is a system that we use for cattle to ensure that when the police stops somebody transporting cattle, they can easily identify whether this has been gotten through bona fide means. There is a requirement under law for all cattle to be tagged. Our farmers have reached out and our butchers have reached out to indicate that there are some challenges in relation to the capacity of the Veterinary Services Unit to tag the backlog. The truth is, this program started in 2015. We've tagged about 90,000 heads of cattle, but unfortunately, when there's no enforcement, sometimes there is no motivation for people to do what is required under the law. Nonetheless, we do know that displacement has been caused to our Veterinary Services Division because of Hurricane Melissa. So I want to say to our farmers and our butchers, we are looking at some solutions to ensure that we ease the sort of discomfort that is being caused by the enforcement exercise. And I will further update you by the end of this week after we've had a meeting with the police and with my veterinary services team to see what is the best approach. I can tell you that we've already deployed yesterday 8 interns from CASE to work with our veterinary services unit in the parishes that we have the greatest challenge, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, to see if we can ramp up tagging in those parishes so that everybody can have a Merry Christmas and so that those who seek to steal will not be able to do so. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. What a lot. I was going to stand up, but then I said, no, it's all very good information that we are getting, and I thank you, Minister, for all of those updates. I mean, it went from $750,000 grants for farmers to initiatives for fisher folk to work being done in terms of livestock because of all the loss, to even dogs migrating and predial larceny. Good for those dogs. Very good for them. No, but Minister, you're doing an excellent job. I need to have the tomatoes because you know I can't grow the tomatoes. I have tried multiple times. Maybe I can do the peppers better this time, but we need you to do your work so that we can have things for Christmas. And I'm glad you gave Jamaica that assurance that we will be good for Christmas. Up next, we have more exciting news. I mean, it's just a morning full of exciting things happening in government. Government has not stopped working, and here is another hard-working minister, Minister Hill. He has an awesome task, and I am very happy to have him here. He's wanted to come for a while, to come and tell all of Jamaica what is happening. He has the small business portfolio, and he is doing big, big things. And so, Minister Aubin Hill, I'm happy to have you here this morning to come and tell Jamaica of the important work that you're doing with your ministry and agencies.
Thank you, Minister Dana. Minister Dana is how I like to call her in cabinet. I see my other colleagues here. Minister Grange, good to see you. Minister Green, Minister Williams, of course, and we all work very hard in cabinet to make sure this country stays good. I'm not in a suit this morning. You've seen me in enough suits. Since the hurricane, really, I've practically, without renting a house in St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, St. James, and elsewhere, I've been really living out in the country. My team members have really been living out there. We come back all kinds of midnights, sometimes from all over the place. Sometimes I remember one day we did not eat from we left here before 7 o'clock until well after 8 in the night. We just kept going. Permanent Secretary Sanse Bennett Temple is here with us this morning. Our team leads, headed in this instance by Dr. Cliff Riley, who is the head of the hazardous substances. You are the regulatory authority. So every time you go to a dentist, please look on the door and see if you see HSRA on it. If you don't see HSRA, you may not be getting the right amount of nuclear atoms or whatever they put in your jaw to get the teeth out or fix it. Dentists need to have HSRA on their door, on their doors. Look for it. That's what he does. And by the way, we're the only small country, and maybe outside of North America, one certainly none in the Caribbean, that has a nuclear plant at the university. I've been there, seen it, and many of you might not know that, but Cliff is in charge of that. Harold Davis there, who is the head of the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, assisting us with technical work, which you'll hear about in a minute, and the the Bureau of Standards of Jamaica, Companies Office of Jamaica. All these are within the ministry, JAMPRO, Exim Bank, and we collaborate with the DBJ, which is in the Prime Minister's ministry. We're going to look very quickly at the business restoration at Borden, St. Elizabeth, and White House in Westmoreland, the distribution of generators in East, Central, and South St. James, business assessment in a compound, voucher businesses, and COJ. But I couldn't go without saying congratulations to Minister Williams for all the work that she did with the international financial institutions yesterday with the Prime Minister. You've heard the announcement. But to touch your lives, many Jamaican lives, what the work she's done with the Student Bureau. I was unfortunate that I didn't get any benefit from the Bureau. So, but a family member, a close family member, sits on the board, and I'm happy that he does that work. When Melissa struck, I was in South Korea representing the government of Jamaica for an IDB meeting. I saw in Korea that Bob Marley was replaced, Bolt was replaced, or music was replaced, or beaches were replaced, and Black River had, for the time, become the face of Jamaica. I am about half an hour away from Black River. That's where I grew up, just south of Monroe. So I went to Monroe College, Boboski-Watton, for those of you who have had the privilege. But what I saw was amazing. Then I came back on I couldn't get back through American Airlines or any of those. So I had to find, Acadian found for me that Cayman Airways were coming in. The Prime Minister arrived early in the morning, and by mid-afternoon, Cayman Airways brought me back in on the Friday, I think it was, because no flights happened on Thursday, so the first flight was on Friday. By the time I came back Saturday, we were in meeting. What I did was look at my ministry and converted it into the Business Restoration Working Group. All the agency heads, all 21 of them, PS working under the PS and myself, made sure we brought that team together and said, the Prime Minister gave me a mandate, actually mandate came after I did the collapsing into the working group, that we must fix back businesses to get them up and running. Clearly, Grace doesn't need my help, and if Grace needs me, they know where to find me. They call me, I'm going to answer the phone very quickly. Some people, although I give out my phone on the radio, some people don't have the phone number. So we have to go look for them. And what we're looking at is the MSMEs. So we went out, and let me give you some idea of what we've done. What we looked at 20% of our businesses operating in Jamaica, not the big ones, come to about 15,000 odd. 20%. We didn't go higher than that. We said, look, if you look at this 20%, what is going to cost us? A big, big number. I'm not going to waste your time with that. So we said, all right, we're in the cabinet. Said, Prime Minister, given the mandate you've given us, we looked at what we have to do for mom and pop stores, bring them back up. We said we want $20 million to start with 50. Cabinet reviewed it, gave us the money. Out we went. So we went down to Border, and Border is really a very easy name. It's right where one sign says Westmoreland and the other one says St. Elizabeth, right at the border, and Border is technically in Minister Green's constituency. So we found 44 shops there. Harry and myself, we went down with Dr. Riley and some others of our team. Harry brought his engineers. Subsequently, later on, we got engineers from BSJ for the generators. And we said, here is a cluster. There are 44 families, mainly women, but some men, who operate from there. Everybody knows it. There are 26 fishermen that supply them. There are any number of farmers that supply the food and the vegetables that go into the whole thing, and we took it on. They get a contractor, and Minister Morris Dixon, myself, and Mr. Green, a couple others were at a dinner last night, and we were talking about the procurement process and what the procurement process does to getting things done. It's not made for emergency. It was never made for emergency. And yes, they tell you that there's an emergency contract, and you try that. When you have people don't have any roofs over their heads, a little sun come out between 8 and 10, and then the rain come back and you get wet up again. Shops, the rice wet up and the sugar now, I see all of that in White House. So we have to, and yet we have to make sure, as Minister Morris Dixon said, make sure we do everything in an accountable way. We can't take taxpayers' money. When I was at NCB and we want to build a branch and we want to give out $200 million, we have a meeting with the board and we're done and we give out the money. Or if I have my own money I want to give, I can't do that with taxpayers' money. So we have to work with what we have until we change the rules. And I'm saying right here now, for a long time, I have been on the record, so like so many ministers and so many other people in government, that we have to change those rules. I mean, we know how that is. Cabinet makes those decisions and it goes to Parliament and so on. But the emergency of Melissa especially tells us that we have to do some work on that part of legislation. So we have all those numbers I tell you. We looked at over 600 businesses. About 262 were in Trelawney. We have another bunch of 285 in Hanover. We have 18 St. Elizabeth, about 30 or so in St. James. A lot of businesses, and these are where we have visited them. How do we get to visit them? We call the biggest contractors. The first meeting I had, in fact, was with distributors. All the big distributors. Grace, Caramed, Blasco, Wisinco, all of them. And we had 100 people in the meeting, the business community, and say, we're going to have to get the businesses back up. Why? Because we can't keep giving out care packages to people. First, after a while, they don't want it. Not that they want it, but they don't want it that way. They need to get their lives back up and running. And so you have to have businesses running. Why do you have business running? Because the distributors have, I visited many of the warehouses. Some of them told me that they have goods enough for 7 weeks to 6 months. And you see more coming in. So we had the goods coming in. The distribution network had to work so that we pull it through. We're setting up these businesses so we can pull it through to the retail, get goods on people's tables and in their houses, so that the Honorable Favour Williams, running the Ministry of Finance and Public Service, will have revenues coming into her coffers so that we can look after what we must do. If we don't pull those merchandise, whether it's hardware or foodware or bleach, if you don't pull that through, we won't get the revenues. So it's vital that we got businesses back up. Not people, of course, you hear a lot of reports every day on how people have to be looked after in their homes and give them food, and hospitals and farms have to get back. But businesses were there, have been there working quietly. So where are we now? We looked at, we put in a contractor through JBDC to fix border. It's pretty much done, in the sense that the structures are back up, and you should see them. We made sure the first structures that were there were not embedded in concrete. Every one that has gone up, every one of the 44 that has gone up, embedded in concrete and straps with hurricane straps, so that the least little wind won't blow it away. We're not going to look for a category 5. We can't stand that, but it's strong. We're doing all that. Sean Paul was down there early with us, and Sean gave some people some board and zinc and so on. And then when we came, we saw Sean, and I talked to his people. I haven't seen him. He was off in Dubai doing his business. And we said, the people came to us and said, look, we don't have anything in our house. We don't have, we need the zinc to go in our house. We need the board. 2 or 3 of them came to us and said, if you're going to fix this back, and they asked me, stand up in my face and asked me, you putting it up to tax us? Because the rumor start, of course. Government put it up so they can tax you and get your name. And I said, no. How many containers, that's one of the ladies that talked to me, I said, how many containers you bring in a week? She said, containers? I said, I don't bring in any containers. I said, you know how many containers Grace brings in? I said, you know how many containers Wisynco brings in? Why am I going to talk to you about taxes? So we know we're not going to tax you. We're here really to help you. She said, all right, please take this down and give it to me so I can go to my house and put it in my house, because we fix everything for them. When you pass here, you'll please it. But then we went on. So Sean Paul is a corporate that came in early. I spoke to another big corporate house. They will take care of all the painting, all the decorations, all the naming of the shops, millions of dollars. They said, we'll do it. Then you have to have a revetment at the back. We're going to put in some boulders, either stones and or concrete, to keep the water out, because you don't want them flooding back into the place. We're going to make sure that there's some eating places. We're putting some kitchens behind there that they can use. So whatever the Prime Minister said, and he was saying before Minister Green and myself yesterday, we're not building back better. No, we're going to do better than that. We're building for the future better than we ever were. So anything we're doing down there, whether you're in, you see what Student Loan Bureau, they're building already for the future better than it ever was, like she was down there listening. So, you know, that's how we have to do it. And I'm glad the PS is here. I'm glad Harold is here. I'm glad Dr. Riley is here. You understand why me push so hard. We can't do things like we used to do and become the Jamaica that we have to become. So understand. Luckily, you understand I come from the private sector. I don't. All my life, I lived in an organization, in an industry that you were always under scrutiny, because I run banks. So I'm not afraid to hear that the Auditor General is coming. I leave every summer, going and look at whatever I do in the bank. I'm not afraid of that. We can't be afraid of that. But we must also get things done urgently. People are in desperate need, and we can't just wait until it's convenient. Where's my mic? Hello? The moment I talk about Auditor General, they cut me. You can't do that. Come on. Who's anyway, you can hear me. Yeah, I don't need a mic. So we're looking at those houses, but those businesses. We have the biggest meat operation and grocery operation in White House. We're looking at putting on the roof. The roof went. The cold storage went. We called Jamaica. They work with Jamaica Brothers Group and us, and the cold storage went back up. It's a big place. and it's the main thing there. And we now need, Harold, we have been a little bit back and forth with this. I want to see the back and forth done. I want really a decision by today, tomorrow, that we go in and start fixing. And we're not going to waste taxpayers' money, but we're not going to wait forever either. So we need to get that done. That's the way we really have to work to get this back up. Then, Monday morning, I hear the Prime Minister announce that, hey, I'm going to ask Minister Hill to go up to Akampong and see what's happening up there and look at what's going on. So, as the newscasters finish, I may understand what them say, me call Cliff and say, Cliff, you hear what the Prime Minister said on radio? So you and your team leave now and go up there and look at it. They looked at 26 or so businesses. So by the time I get to Cabinet and the Prime Minister was giving us a briefing and how it went and so on, I said, my team is in Akampong right now. Subsequently, we understand, of course, Akampong is a cultural part of our history, and Minister Grange handles that. So we had an agreement before we left Cabinet, as I told you yesterday, Cliff, that Minister Grange and I, when the generators are going in, we're going up, and the roofs that we're helping to put back will be going up there to make sure everything goes well. But you were well received. You didn't have any issue, and you got your work done with your 25 houses. So what else are we looking at? When you look, we're now going to move to another cluster in middle quarters, but I've gone to all those constituencies in St. James and the other parishes that we're looking at that are badly affected. The key is that we have to move fast. So we went in for the generators. We went out, and all of these places I visit, all of them, I didn't know Minister Bartlett's constituency was so big. I drive till I'm tired. And I'm not driving. So you understand that MPs have a lot of ground to cover. And we call them and say, where should we go? After we check with the distributors so that they're in business. And then we went and looked, and we installed, 11 generators by now. The first constituency we actually went with, because of a comment that Minister Morris Dixon made this morning, was not a JLP constituency. It was in South St. James. MP Birchall's constituency. PS and the team were in there first time looking at everything. We looked at 13 or 15 shops. We started there in putting in generators. We're going to put more so that the businesses can operate. And where are we putting them? We're putting them in the main shops in the communities, where usually they sell meat, they sell flour, they sell bread, so that they become the center of community development. Why? Because we are working, Minister Marks, Senator Duncan, Alok Jan in the Prime Minister's office, and myself, we're working to get, and others doing the technical work, we're not doing the technical work, to get a voucher system in place to help pull those goods through the supply chain. Mothers who don't now have a job and have to take care of our kids going to school, they need help. Other people who are elderly and need some additional help, they'll get some vouchers. That's being worked out. It's not yet in process. And of course, yesterday I had a press conference with Dr. David Lowe of the DBJ, and that $1 billion that is now ready to be deployed. How is it going to be deployed? Additional funds to people, mainly in the MSME regions. And then we have Exim Bank working with them. The MSMEs that are operational are desperate to get some financial relief. Dr. Lowe and myself are working that they will get a moratorium on their principal and interest. The same thing for Exim Bank. And therefore, we see that as we look at building up businesses back so that business can get going, to get us avoiding constant care packages and revenues coming into the government, but getting Jamaica back up to a place where very quickly we become the symbol of a country that has gone through pretty much a near disaster, a disaster in some places. Many places, Parity people, I went down there, the houses are flattened, and the sea was up in maybe a kilometer in. So all those things are coming back. But you know something, as the Prime Minister said, we are known for building a country back from a place where we were a basket case. Well, we now have the opportunity and tremendous assistance and goodwill locally and internationally to become that country that can restore itself with significant resilience and building much better for the future. And a big part of that is working with businesses to make that happen. That's where we are, and I'll take your questions later on.
Checking, Mike? Not there, still not there. It's not just you, Minister. it's the entire mic system. Just waiting for the mic to come back. All right, good. Thank you very much, Minister Hill. Those updates are very big. It's very important. I want to see those shops too. It's so good to see shops across Jamaica getting generators. When the shop is back up, the community has hope. And so that work is really good that you and the team have been doing. And I know you're rebuilding shops at the same time. There's just so much dynamism there. And I want to thank you very much for all of that work. And I know you'll come and show us all the pretty pictures of the shops that have been rebuilt. All right, so we saved the best for last. I don't think the ministers think so, right? But the most beautiful, the most wonderful minister of everything. You know, your portfolio is so long. Minister Olivia Babsy-Grange is going to round out the presentations this morning, and then we'll move into questions. Minister Grange, welcome as always.
Thank you, Minister. I just want to acknowledge my colleague ministers and all the ministry support team that's here. The protocol has already been done, so I've adopted the protocol, Minister Morris Dixon. All right. But this morning, I want to provide an update on what my ministry, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport, has been doing to assist with the hurricane relief effort. But first, I want to say a huge thank you. I want to thank the first responders, the emergency services team, the police, the soldiers, the firefighters, the medical teams, social workers, everyone who has been working around the clock to save, protect, and serve those in need. And they do this even while, in some cases, their homes lay in ruin. And, you know, we can't say thank you enough to them. And I just wanted to emphasize that this morning. I want to thank the people of Jamaica here and here at home and world over who continue to rally in support of Jamaica. Your kindness has made a difference. Jamaicans, wherever they are, they love Jamaica. And this Hurricane Melissa has brought out that love and that appreciation of each other. No matter how we quarrel with each other, we just love our country. And I want to thank Jamaicans here at home and in the diaspora. And of course, I want to thank our national representatives and sports stars and the entertainment fraternity who have all been playing their part in the national hurricane relief effort. So I will now move straight into updates on what my ministry is doing, working along with the various sectors. In collaboration with the entertainment, cultural, and creative industries, we have started the initiative of the I Love Jamaica concerts and telethon to raise funds for the National Hurricane Relief Program. The I Love Jamaica initiative includes a series of in-person concerts in major world cities with strong Jamaican populations, including the telethon and virtual concert, which took place on Sunday, November 23, broadcast on all the television stations here in Jamaica and streamed across the world via social media. I recently announced that the I Love Jamaica Telethon raised more than $65 million towards the National Hurricane Melissa Relief Program through the fundraising effort. $45 million, to be exact, $45,765,495,000 has already been received and deposited to the Support Jamaica account. And I want to thank Commander Gale for being so efficient in providing us with information as to the funds that were received through that initiative. Based on pledges made, we also anticipate that an additional sum of approximately $20 million will be received shortly. And in fact, we have started receiving those pledges. And I understand that additional funds are coming in, and we will give a further update at another time as to how much additional we have raised. The I Love Jamaica Telethon and Concert was a collaborative effort. It featured approximately almost 30 of Jamaica's leading reggae, dancehall, and gospel artists. What was so beautiful about this event that dancehall, gospel, and the all genres of Jamaican music, all those artists came together. I mean, I found myself in a photograph with artists who don't normally cross each other's path. But here I was, and Minister Green and others in photographs with from the most intense dancehall artist to the most pastor and minister who minister in the gospel. And I want to thank the entertainment fraternity and also Red Stripe and Digicel for the major role they played, and to all our other partners. The media played an important role. The medical services were there, the technical field, the logistics, the food and beverage services, and corporate, who stayed the course with us during that telethon. And it really warmed my heart. You know, I see all my colleagues turning up, most of my colleagues turning up, and manning the phones and taking calls. It really was a wonderful experience. Now, in addition to participating in the telethon, we have received a number of correspondence, and I want to read this correspondence, which is from Prince Ermias Sahel Selassie Al Selassie. And this is the grandson of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Al Selassie. And it's addressed to the Prime Minister, and he writes, I write to express to you my deepest condolences for the tragedy brought to Jamaica by Hurricane Melissa. The loss of life and the damage to Jamaica's infrastructure brings sadness and raises challenges. I know that while you mourn what has been lost, you will lead Jamaica into a better future through the process of rebuilding. In light of the long-standing bonds of friendship between Jamaica and Ethiopia, I want to do everything in my power to help you in that process. To that end, I have authorized the Royal Ethiopian Trust, of which I am the patron, to make a $5,000 donation to your Office of Disaster Preparedness, which was sent by wire transfer a week ago. I've also made a series of statements in public and on social media asking my supporters to do everything in their power to help the people of Jamaica with donations of any kind. I'm ready to work with you and members of your government to help in any other way I can. My thoughts and prayers are with you. With warmest regards. And that's correspondence from Prince Hermes, the grandson of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie. I also want to indicate here that a number of Jamaicans in Hollywood, number of Jamaican actresses, producers and directors, and those who are just friends of Jamaica, they've also launched a campaign to raise funds towards our relief program. Those include comedian Orlando Jones, director-producer Benny Boom, John Buffalo Mailer, Dallas Jackson, among others. Now, I'm pleased to announce that we have been in discussion with several organizations and Friends of Jamaica in major diaspora cities, and even diverse places without a large Jamaican population who are keen on staging I Love Jamaica concerts in their locale. Some of the promoters of these concerts have chosen to give them unique names rather than the generic I Love Jamaica to make their events stand out. And while they're doing that, they're still keeping a link with the I Love Jamaica series of activities. So the concert that we had announced earlier that was held in London at the iconic Coco Camden Concert Hall on Thursday, November 13, despite having only 2 weeks to pull it together, had a full house. A full house came out, and we were able to get 3.5 million Jamaican dollars from that initiative. Now, on December 6th, there will be a One Love Jamaica Rebuild Gospel Concert at the Faith Center, Sunrise, Florida. And this initiative is led by Bishop Henry Fernandez and the Consul General Oliver Mayer. On Friday, December 12th, the Jamaica Strong Charity Concert at USB Arena, Long Island, New York, will be held, and this is an initiative by Bobby Clark of Irie Jams, New York, Shaggy, and Sean Paul. And this will be a major event that will also be carried on YouTube. And on Friday, January the 2nd, there is the Stay Strong Jamaica concert, which now will be held at the Hard Rock Cafe and in Long Island, New York. And this event will feature a number of our most outstanding performers, and those names will be announced at a later date. We're also in discussion to have concerts in Nairobi, Kenya, in Dubai, Qatar, and the UAE. But I will make further announcements on those. Moving on to the church, the religious matters, I want to thank the religious community and the faith-based community who have been providing comfort as well as spiritual, emotional, and other important support to our people in this trying time. In keeping with the responsibility that was given to my ministry to mobilize the religious and faith-based communities to support Jamaica's relief activities, I assembled the National Religious and Faith-Based Hurricane Task Force. And this task force is being coordinated by Dr. the Honorable Bishop Harold Blair. And he is supported and assisted by Bishop Bengucci. The task force was set up to streamline and coordinate requests for support and assistance from individuals and groups, primarily in the parishes that have been severely affected by Hurricane Melissa. and to align the request with the distribution systems and protocols of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security and the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. However, the first initiative of the task force was to establish national days of prayer. And the first weekend was Saturday, November the 15th, and Sunday, November the 16th. It was further expanded to a second weekend where the PBCJ recorded prayers by various denominations and faith-based representatives. And this went very well over the weekends of November 22nd, 23, and November 29 and November 30. And the religious and faith-based organizations have been doing their part in the national relief effort, and I really want to thank them again. Now, approximately 7,500 religious spaces island-wide have been playing their part, but they have also been impacted by the hurricane. More than 300 church buildings have suffered damage, with several completely destroyed. Nonetheless, in every parish, congregations have continued to serve faithfully. I will now move on to the National Registry of Volunteers, which was established. And I want to thank the many volunteers who have signed up to the National Registry and have been giving their time, skills, and putting every effort into this mission of love, care, and compassion. The portal allows, a portal which is set up on Support Jamaica website, allows volunteers to indicate their areas of interest, preferred volunteered locations, and availability. And volunteer registration was open to the public to support a wide range of recovery activities, including food distribution, shelter operations, first aid, medical assistance, transportation, driving, communication, coordination, administration, registration, counseling, psychosocial support, and meal preparation. As of November 24, 4,325 people have registered to assist across the multiple sectors depending on national needs and deployment planning. Their information has been compiled to facilitate targeted assignments as recovery operations progress. So far, volunteers have been provided upon request to the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, as well as to the Ministry of Education. I will, on another occasion, give an update on the area of culture, where we have started visiting cultural communities. You will all see that the Prime Minister led a team to a compound, and the visit there went very well. We will be visiting all the other Maroon communities, as well as communities established by the Rastafari mansions, as well as areas, as well as the revival churches. So that update will be provided at another time. I just want to indicate that my area of culture, gender, entertainment, and sport is sort of the areas that create that connection between people. And I have witnessed a spirit of unity, and I'm really happy to say that unity is alive and well in Jamaica. And I want to thank all those who have come on board to make sure that we are true to our motto, out of many, one people. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister, and for all of the work that you do. That's been a lot of ministers this morning. And so before we go into the questions, I just had one last thing that I needed to remind Jamaica about. And that is that Jamaica is on track to record the lowest murder rate in nearly 40 years. That's a big deal. And the Prime Minister noted this week that we are on track to record fewer than 700 murders this year. And that's important. It's a big, big deal because all of those young men and young women or older men and women who could have lost their lives and didn't because of the declining murder rate, those are families that are not mourning today. And so we have to celebrate the wins. And even with Melissa and the focus on Hurricane Melissa, there's a lot of work still happening. You heard the SLB this morning. You also saw the Prime Minister this week opening the reconstructed Little London Police Station in Westmoreland. And that costs quite a bit of money to do. But we still continued on that path despite Hurricane Melissa. The government is working hard, and this issue of crime is a big one. And we have not stopped working to bring our murder rate down in this country, and work will continue on that. Today is also the International Day of Persons Living with Disabilities. And so we want to recognize that day today. I know many of our individuals from the deaf community said they want to hear these briefings. And so Tony was so wonderful to come and support us to ensure that all of these announcements that we're doing, they're accessible to those communities. And this administration is committed to continuing to work with all persons living with disabilities so they truly feel that they're a part of the entire decision-making process in this country. All right, so question time. Rasheen, I'm gonna come to you first, and so that you can ask the questions from everyone.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. We'll take the online questions first and then a few from the floor.
Sure.
The first one is for Commander Gale. How will the JDF help to rebuild houses damaged by Hurricane Melissa?
All right, and just noting, if the mic goes out, everybody at home is still hearing us. So apparently, it's just us can't hear ourselves in here, but everybody at home hears us fine.
Good morning. So the Jamaica Defense Force has a engineering regiment, which has within that a scope of builders, masons, plumbers, electricians, that can definitely assist in the process. What they have been doing thus far is, for example, with the Guyanese Defense Force engineering team that has already come to Jamaica, they have already gone out and done some assessments and prospecting. There are other military teams that will be visiting Jamaica, and the Jamaica Defense Force will be twinned with them, and then other teams of volunteers as required.
Okay, thank you, Commander. The next question is for Miss Nikisha Walsh from SLB. When will the Student Loan Debt Reset Initiative start?
Right, that's what everybody wants. They're excited about it.
And thank you, everyone. So on Monday, the platform will go on our website where students can go and apply for the debt reset program. So on Monday, they'll have it live.
I can tell you that at 12:01 a.m. on Monday, there will be students waiting to go online, or past students who, your clients will be there. All right.
Okay, and from the floor, we will take one question from one of the MICO students.
Oh, our MICO students. Good, I like when you ask questions.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
I am Kaylee Smith. I'm a student from the Michael University College, and my question is for you.
Oh, okay.
So it's regarding what Commander Gale mentioned about the 73 schools that are still currently being used as shelters. I wanted to confirm, what are the measures that have been put in place to ensure that the students of these schools are not severely behind?
All right, that's a great question, and Commander Gale can come and tell you when we'll be able to get the schools back. That was my question to him. But, you know, we have to really balance things, right? No one chooses to be in a shelter. They're in a shelter because that's their only choice. And so we have to support them during that time in the shelter, and that's how our administration feels. You know, everybody who needs to be supported, you support as best as you can. So the administration, the Prime Minister, about a week and a half ago, had given the directive that the shelter should be decommissioned. But in order for you to decommission a shelter, you have to have a place for those individuals to go. And so I know that ODPEM, working with the Ministry of Local Government and also with the Ministry of Labor, they're looking at alternative sites so those individuals can be there, but obviously key, be there with their sense of dignity. That's very important. But of course it has an impact on our students. It means that they can't be in school. And that's a big concern we have because we want to limit learning losses. And so we're working to support the initiatives to move those who are in shelters now. But when those students come back, we're going to have to do a lot of work, and the CEO is here, our Chief Education Officer is here, and she has a lot of plans for maths and English, and they send me all the plans, because we're going to have to do remediation work. When they come in, we have to do the psychosocial work because they've been traumatized and they've been out of school, their natural environment, their routines. So we have to do a lot of psychosocial work, and then we're going to have to do work with them during their breaks. We're going to have to do everything we can. We're even looking at changing up timetables in those schools so that they can get the most key areas addressed and that you don't see any shortfall in maths and English. Those are very important. I don't know, what are you going to be teaching? All right, English language and literature. So you understand, we don't want to lose the momentum, and we've had some really good momentum in terms of the results, and so you don't want to lose that. And the worst part about it, and I say it all the time, that's the painful part for me, is that we do see disparities in outcome based on where you're from. And you don't want that perpetuated. And so it's so important when these students go back to school, you're going to hear the ministry speaking about special initiatives for students from the West, because we have to take care of them and we have to do the work to remediate them. And thank you. And I think you're going to be an excellent English teacher. You're going to be excellent. Thank you. All right. I know this person.
Good morning, everyone. Mahiri Stewart, Nationwide News here. My first question is for Minister Williams. So much mention was made about the SLB debt reset being part of the manifesto for the government in its current term. And we know that you're making mention of the fact that despite the fact that the hurricane passed, you're still able to implement it. In terms of the other plans, whether it be the income tax threshold raise or any other plan that was in the manifesto, despite what's taken place on October 28, how likely are those plans in terms of being still implemented in the future?
Okay. All our manifesto promises, all our manifesto commitments, I should say, are still on the table in front of us. And as you can see, we're a government that can do multiple things at the same time. We run on different tracks. We have a lot of ministers. This morning was a great demonstration of the capacity and capabilities of the ministries. So we will be working on those manifesto commitments, and you will hear more about it as the months, years go ahead. Thanks.
Okay. So my second question would be to Senator Hill. In terms of, you've made no secret of your issues with procurement and how much it, hampers your ministry.
Over the years I have, yes.
In terms of how much it's hampered your government, your ministry rather, in carrying out things, especially now in the hurricane. If you had your way, what changes would you make to ensure that you could carry out these disaster relief efforts in a more efficient manner?
You know, one of the things, Mahir, I'm really happy for in my career is that I ran banks where I didn't have to give projections. If you're in a bank in the United States and you give your quarterly report, you have to say what you're going to do next and what you expect the next numbers to be. Because one of the things I tried not to do was ever to predict the future. I leave that for other people. But just if I could, I would love, I tell you why I think this way. As I read the procurement rules, and I chair the infrastructure committee of cabinet, so for a long time now, Minister Morris Dixon ran away from me because of Minister Williams' portfolio and procurement is under her. She's no longer on the committee, but Minister Green and myself are there regularly. It appears to me, and I wasn't there with the writers, that the procurement rules were made for a time when it seems as if everybody who wrote it, or the talking class and the intelligentsia, seemed to believe that everybody was a thief. It was written so that it was not so much to make sure you're compliant, that it says, but it was made sure that you couldn't do anything that might even cause somebody to think that you have been irregular. Well, in doing that, what you have done is made sure that initiatives can't be taken, and in fact, the people who are in government who really have their reputation, they've served a long time, and their pensions, very often linked to it, to that long service, is at risk if they appear to make one mistake. The news media carry them on the front page and they feel that the death has happened. Well, you know, I've been there and I'm still alive. So I don't see it that way. But we know, and we cannot be capricious with taxpayers' money. We're not looking to not find value and have our friends and family steal the money. Some of them will do that. So you have to make sure you have a system that is correct. And my aim is to reduce the number of places it might go to. Since I've been there, we've taken out one level where in the ministry and I have to have another committee to look at what was already approved by somebody else. It makes sense. So we need to look at the chain that we have to go through, see where compliance is really required, and then make it as easy to do that while being compliant as you can. And that is really for policymakers. The people who operate this in the ministry, they don't make policy. They operate by what the law is there. Harold can't go and change the rules. That's not his job at JBDC. He follows the rules. The PS can't change the rules. She follows the rules. But they can make recommendations, and they should be asked. And those of us who make policy must then take up the cross. I'm quite willing, I'm looking forward to working with Minister Williams. I know she's going to look at changes to make that easier for us to do. And it's not built for emergency. We must have a clause in there where the most senior decision-making body in the country, cabinet, can say, we've declared this a disaster. These are the rules that operate, and you must then go and get things done very quickly.
All right, thank you. Oh, there's more?
I do, yes.
I think you're almost out of your quota. Come, go ahead.
All right, this next one is for...
He has 3, so this is your 3rd one.
All right, so who do I give it to then?
Lloyd?
Minister Green. So my question to Minister Green would be, the opposition spokesperson on agriculture, that's Dr. Dayton Campbell, I asked him at a media briefing, I believe it was last week, what initiatives he would like to see based on what he's seen on the ground from the ministry, what he'd want the ministry to do. And one of the things that he brought up was land and making lands that the government owns available to farmers that may have lost things. Do you see this as something that the government can or should do?
Yeah, it's something that even before Hurricane Melissa, we had put as a part of our manifesto commitment to ensure that we establish at least one agri-park per parish. What we have now, clearly there are parishes with agri-parks, some with multiple agri-parks, where land is made available by the government on concessionary terms oftentimes, and where we try to ensure that not just the land, but things like storage, road networks, irrigation systems are put in. What we've started the process of doing is identifying government land in the parishes that we don't have an agri-park to see if we could make that available and turn that into an agri-park. So that work is ongoing. That work hasn't stopped. So already we've identified some land in St. Anne that we're partnering with the Jamaica Bauxite Mining Limited and the Agri-Invest Corporation. We may have some land in St. James. So what we're doing, that's the approach, to look at where the government has land, right? Good agricultural land, to look at things like access to water, and to bring in the Agri-Invest Corporation to turn it into an agri-park where we can have persons who are interested in agriculture get lands from the government. So that is work in progress. Clearly, that takes a little time because, again, just saying this is the land here, you have to do a little bit more, but we're working on that.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Mahiri. I see everybody keeping their quotas in mind. Zara, you're going to keep your quota in mind?
I don't know what the quota is because, to be honest with you, you guys have had 6 presentations.
Yes, so let's do 3, and I know there are other questions. So we're going to do 3 first, and then we go for other questions, and I can come back to you.
Okay, so just for the record, I do have questions for Minister Williams, ODPEM, and also you, Minister, and
sure.
Minister Hill. All right, so Favour Williams, Minister Favour Williams, I would love to be able to ask you a couple of questions regarding your presentation yesterday and some of the allocations you spoke about, the 29.3 billion worth of allocations in the supplementary budget. The 26 billion roughly is what I calculated in terms of what you actually said in terms of allocations. I was wondering about some of the other allocations as well for like education. When will we get those other numbers? I didn't get the supplementary supplementary estimates yesterday.
I did lay in Parliament yesterday the full yellow book that speaks to the allocation for all ministries, departments, and agencies. I only highlighted in Parliament that in addition to the normal working of government, we've had to allocate $29.3 billion specifically for Hurricane Melissa response and relief.
Right, but I think what I'm asking is the departments that you itemized, right? I didn't hear certain departments mentioned, and so those $29.3 billion worth of funds, I was just wondering, will we get more in the supplementary budget for Melissa specifically related to, because I didn't.
When you say get more dollars or just more information?
More information regarding the different allocations for Melissa for the different ministries.
Yes, that will be in there as well in the yellow book, which today is PAAC, so they will be pouring through the details of that book.
Okay, also in terms of ODPEM's allocation, I didn't get it. I asked yesterday for it and I didn't get it. So I do have to ask this question. I asked it last week about ODPEM's allocation. And the reason I'm asking about the allocation for ODPEM is that when I look at the number of people in need, according to the ODPEM website, 626,000 people approximately. If you put 4 people in that per household, you're looking at 156,000 families needing assistance. And if you're looking at the voucher program, which is what we're moving to come January, the Prime Minister said yesterday, maybe even this year, there is maybe, you would think, $5,000 a week for these families to be able to eat. And so that's a big number, $782.9 million a week in expenses. That's my calculation, of course. And of course, that would be about $3 billion per month and $9.4 billion over 12 weeks. I want to know, do you have any allocation in the budget at all for the voucher program in terms of feeding people? If my calculations are off, I apologize, but I did do that this morning. I just want to know, how much are we spending to feed people? And how much have we spent to feed people? I've asked that last week and I was told the number would be coming and I didn't get it.
Okay. Right. We'd have to get back to you on those numbers. As you can imagine, the program is currently in its assessment phase to help us to understand how many persons, what length of period. There are many initiatives happening at the same time as well to bring help to people through ODPEM and through many, many other organizations. So the specific voucher program is being coordinated through the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. The last time I heard that minister speak was that his persons are out there on the ground doing the assessment Persons are putting up information on the website as well, self-identifying themselves. So there's still much to be worked out to give us a sense of the magnitude of that program.
Okay, and then my last question is loan to JPS. The $150 million loan, I know you mentioned yesterday that based on what they needed within the money that we are going to be getting from the international community, there is an allocation for JPS to also get part of that. I think the overall amount I need, correct me if I'm wrong, is maybe $300 million US, I think I heard it said. So they're getting an extra maybe $150 million from this package. And I just wanted to know, since they couldn't get, or the argument was that they couldn't get loans on their own prior to coming into this situation because they didn't get the extension on their license, I wanted to know if now that they're getting this money from the international donors, if that loan was gotten based on a guarantee from the Jamaican government, which would then maybe add to our overall debt. I just wanted to get a clarification on that.
Okay, so remember, in the $6.7 billion that was announced, $2.4 billion of that was earmarked for private sector lending. So any amounts to JPS would be in that window out of the 2.4.
So we don't have to guarantee that debt at all?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Going back around.
One more from one of our MICA students.
Good morning,
Good
all
morning.
protocols observed. My name is Cavell Williams, and I'm from the Michael University College. And as a proud SLB student, and I'm also from the West, I would like to commend you on the outstanding initiative that you're implementing. And my question is to Ms. Walsh. So in light of the recent devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa, are you considering extending the loan application period? And also, if I'm a PATH beneficiary and I have received the PATH grant in aid, can I also benefit from the $60,000 grant in aid?
All right, you see, there's a lot of excitement around SLB. That's what our young people want.
All right, the SLB application period is open until February 2026. So we've already extended it for persons who are late to apply for their loan. So the grant in aid for the $60,000 was considered for additional persons outside of what we'd have already allocated, which you would have been a member. So we won't be giving two grant in aid, just one. So, all right.
Thank you. All right, so going back around, next group, Mahiri and Zara, you have more questions?
Minister Hill, questions for you, please, sir. All right. So
Morning,
Trinidad,
Zara.
Good morning. Trinidad in the last October. So I believe that they had slapped some tariffs or some excise duties on some of their alcoholic producers and also the CARICOM producers of the same cigarettes, alcohol, that kind of thing. And I was wondering if you had been thinking about or had engaged Trinidad on that, or any of our alcohol producers, cigarette producers, asking anything about this new excise tax in Trinidad, which I think is up to 100% increase. So
The ministry, technical people in the ministry, of course, follow this and cement and critical issues or products like that. I was, in fact, just at COTED maybe 2 weeks ago, and the matter came up not on an agenda item, but in the corridors you hear it being discussed. So it has to go through a technical committee, which, for instance, the purveyors of cigarettes and liquor here would be in. I give you an example, another example, in that we buy a lot of orange juice from Belize because of the greening, the leaf greening disease that we had here. The disease also took Belize, and they couldn't provide all the orange juice that we want for our big orange juice users here. and we had to get a CET relief to import outside of release. But that goes through the technical arrangements. The businesses are represented through the CPSO, which is an organization of private sector organizations within CARICOM. And so that process is going through. We watch everything, as we did, for instance, with the solar equipment that Barbados claimed that it was able to produce, but when we checked, they couldn't. So we're checking through. At the moment, there's no decision on it, but the businesses are engaged, and the ministry and the trade section of our ministry is reviewing it, and will then have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who usually represents Jamaica. Unfortunately, Mr. Johnson Smith was elsewhere, and I had to go this time. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will be briefed, and the matter will be taken up. But it's being considered.
Okay, and in terms of investments, are there any programs that currently the Ministry of Industry is coming up with to attract, let us say, overseas investors in Jamaica post-Melissa? Because obviously we're going to need some support. So instead of loans, maybe investments?
Well, as you know, and under Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, we operate as one government. Minister Floyd has his thing to do, but recently we met on a matter of mining. Yesterday, Prime Minister was able to announce a $43 million investment in, believe it or not, a brand new sugar plant in Jamaica. Work was going on. Minister Green has been dealing with them. I know Anil and the others who are, they're Guyanese Indians and I think maybe Trinidadian investors as well as Jamaican investors coming in. So that's happening. We believe from all the discussions I've had with the IDB and the other, we had another, the European Investment Bank here a couple of nights ago. We see that they're very, very, very keen to help Jamaica and have their investors come in. And I think the best evidence of that is that without, as I said, I'm from the banking arrangement, without asking for any loans or international partners, because of the record that we have, the kind of economy that we run, the regulations that we have put forward this $6.7 billion, which is amazing. And so investors are looking in. And yes, to the direct question to the ministry, we're focusing on getting investors in mining, of course. Some of the investors we want, last night we talked to prospective officials from Britain about a mission that I had there. We have British investors interested in our agriculture. Now is the right time for it. We're going to push that. And the logistics hub is amazingly topical at this time. It takes time to get these investments. The sugar company one took about 2 years, Minister Green, from start to end, and their stop and goes. But yes, both of us, especially the Prime Minister's made it clear. Agriculture must, tourism must, Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, logistics, and higher earning services from fintech are where we're focusing our efforts.
Okay, and then for ADPEM,
Minister Green?
Oh,
it was Minister Green you wanted, or still?
No, ADPEM.
ADPEM? Okay, ADPEM.
ADPEM, the World Central Kitchen and World Food Program, and I guess us as taxpayers. Could you just describe for us the hot meal situation for the future? So have they given any indication as to when they will stop the hot meals? The two programs I just mentioned, and even us if we are doing hot meals. And then also in terms of also, if you have this, because I asked you last week, aid money that's been spent on food so far from ADPEM, if you have it.
So good morning again. So for the World Central Kitchen, they're the largest partner when it comes to hot meals. They have a lease on their facility until the end of December. They will communicate very shortly a stop date, As it is now, they have reduced cooking on Sundays as they move towards winding down their own operations. I have asked in my NEOC sectoral briefings for the food working group to look very keenly at how we may be able to continue some plans around that. Those plans are coming together. Once those have come together, I will brief up and seek some approvals around those matters. No, that's it for no, yeah.
Or you don't have the aid money, the money that we've spent on aid, you don't have the amount as yet?
I believe we spoke about how the aid money would be spent concerning the materials for the rebuilding process not too long ago in the earlier briefing.
No, but I'm saying in terms of how much Jamaica has spent on food aid for our people.
Okay, I don't have those figures on me right now, no.
Okay, but you said that it would be coming.
No, I thought you mentioned the donation money. That's what we spoke about at the last press briefing.
All right. Okay, so we'll get that. We'll get that info. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Mahiri.
Last question to Minister Grange. This came to my mind while I was sitting down. We've seen a lot of buildings, historical buildings made out of old bricks and old material that have gone down because of the passage of the hurricane. And obviously this means that that material wasn't enough to withstand that level of wind and rain. So my question is, in terms of rebuilding historic sites that were damaged by Hurricane Melissa, is it that we're going to forego using those old materials in favor of new ones to ensure that those historic buildings stay up? Or will there be some kind of implementation of that old material to keep that historicness into the old buildings, if that makes sense?
All right, so the historic buildings, how are we going to be rebuilding those? What's the plan?
We have been, with the support of UNESCO, we have been doing the study and looking at all the sites across the parishes and what impact the hurricane had on those sites. There are some sites, what we are doing, we're retrieving the artifacts. There are other sites that we are exploring how we can get funding, international support to restore or to restore what we can, what elements we can of those structures, and see how we can do the adaptive kind of design to preserve elements of the culture. What I can say, we have had 3 workshops so far with experts have already come to the island and met with persons within the sector and upgrade their skills. So the next briefing, not next week, but sometime in the future, I will bring an update here as to how we are treating, as I said at the end of my remarks this morning, how we are treating culture and the various elements that are involved.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all. And, oh, yes, you're here in your purple with your purple ribbons. Tell us about
that. We're observing 16 days of activism against violence against women and girls. And I've walked with my purple ribbons, and we're going to be handing out purple ribbons. I'd like you all to wear your purple ribbon.
And it's not
and
KC.
To your purple advocacy ribbon to show your support for the campaign against violence against our women.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Minister. And we'll all wear our purple ribbons. And as we close out today, as always, I mean, it's been a good day. The government is working, our agencies are working. There's just so much happening in this country. We've gone through a devastating Category 5 hurricane, but we're still standing and we're still resilient, and we are going to build back even better than before. And we're going to continue doing this. We're going to continue being open to Easy questions, hard questions. We're going to be taking them. Every time we do these briefings, we take all the questions that there are and we answer as best as we can. And as we close, remember all those who are still really, really struggling after Hurricane Melissa. As you heard today, there's a lot of work happening. Government, private sector, donors are doing so many things, but there's still many who are suffering. And we keep all of them in our thoughts and in our prayers, because we know that every Jamaican matters. Every single Jamaican matters. And so if some are hurting, all of us are really hurting. And so as we continue our work, we ask that God continue to bless all those affected and continue to bless the entire country of Jamaica that we love so dearly. Thank you all for being here.